Please welcome our moderator, Haslinda, Amin, and her panelists. CEO of Mastercard, Michael Miebach. Founder and chairman of Bharti Enterprises and executive chairman of OneWeb, Sunil Mittal. And CEO of the Trip.com group, Jane Sun.
Now, the pandemic has had a profound impact on the world. We've seen scientific breakthroughs, digital innovation that got accelerated, but we've also seen political failures, deep divides, rich versus poor, east versus west, vaccine inequity prompting a loss of trust in governments as well as institutions. Meantime, businesses made a pivot to survive. Some changes are transient, others are here to stay. So what have we learned from this pandemic? Where do we go from here? How has COVID shaped the world? Michael, fair to say science saved the day. Vaccines made the pandemic manageable in a matter of months compared to the early 1900s with the flu. But yet, 5 million people have perished. It'll be another 6 months before 3/4 of the world gets vaccinated with the first jab. Where did we fall short?
Haslinda, I think there's no two ways about it. We fell short in multiple dimensions. It just, shared the tragic truth. Millions of lives were lost. I mean, that's for sure true. Livelihoods were lost as well. So you would think that when you just consider the impact on small business, for example, clearly the hardest hit part of economy around the world, that we would have done a better job over the years, considering that small business is the biggest employer, to make them more resilient, and we didn't do that. The inequalities you talked about, east-west, rich-poor, the digital haves and the digital have-nots, I think we have done a slightly better job here, because clearly, as we were all locked up at home, the world actually did work. So some homework was done, but you can also see that the digital divide, for those that have not been included, for whom it hasn't worked at all, is opening further. So there's lots for us to do, and I think private sector plays a role. To your point about where failures happened, I think collaboration didn't happen to the degree that it could have between governments and private sector. I see much more of that as you think about putting technology to good use, partnerships on good policy, on standards that ensure that you can actually drive technology into everybody's hand around the world, so it can be that force for good. I'm optimistic that we're going to do better, and we actually took the learnings from what happened in the last 18 months.
And Sunil, we had all the time in the world to prepare for a crisis like the pandemic. What are some of the key takeaways?
Well, I have a slightly different take on this. I mean, you can never prepare for something like this. This was perhaps in our lifetime once that you'll see this. Simultaneous, almost everywhere in the world, they started to erupt. Countries which are not very affluent, emerging, India, South Asia, Africa, generally take a great deal of effort to deal with their normal circumstances. We don't have the medical care that is required to deal with our people in normal times. I mean, imagine catastrophe like this, a pandemic like this. Who could have prepared themselves? The Western world, which is so advanced, was caught napping. So there was no question that countries like India or Bangladesh or Africa or Brazil would have ever coped with this. Yet, let's celebrate the human effort, the ingenuity of mankind. How we did well. Let's start with my own industry, telecommunications. People moved from urban centers to countryside, not in tens of thousands, not in millions, but hundreds of millions. People just moved from the urban centers. People moved overnight from offices to homes. The networks stayed the course. We shifted traffic overnight from urban to rural centers, from offices to homes. I personally say this is to be celebrated because, as Michael rightly said, work did not stop one day. We just continued. Medical support, emergency support, work from home, regular business, supply chains, everything worked well. 251 million people, maybe it's now 255 million people who have been afflicted by this virus. 5 million have unfortunately died. That's 2%. That's big. Every life must be lost, must be mourned. But the fact is, the world has come together remarkably against this deadly virus. So I would really say we've done well. And you can never, ever prepare for something like this.
But we could have done better. Jane, let's bring you into this conversation. I mean, sitting in China, what are the changes you're seeing today which you didn't think possible 20 months ago?
Yes, the pandemic has presented tremendous challenge for the world. Yet we have seen a great collaboration in our industry. The technology made it possible for us to stay connected with each other. And more so, I see the people care about each other, no matter there is a border among us. So at the beginning of the pandemic, China was the first country which went into the pandemics. And we received tremendous support from people all around the world, from Europe, Italy, India, United States, everywhere. Once China was out, and the other country went into this pandemics. And I saw tremendous love and care from China to the rest of the world. And even children in the city of Shanghai raised funds for the refugee kids in the Middle East to support them. So I saw lots of challenges in the past 2 years, but it gives me lots of hope that through the collaboration, through technology, and through our human kindness, we'll be able to overcome a lot of challenges.
Michael, Sunil talked earlier about how basically we did not miss a beat. Life went on, work went on, but there have been changes. Expectations of workers have changed. The great resignation is a thing, not just in the US. We saw a resignation of about more than 4 million people left their work. The UK is doing the same thing. Those in Canada are doing the same thing. And the recent survey here in Singapore suggested that of all the people that were surveyed, 50% were relooking at whether they want to stay in their jobs or not. So expectations of workers have changed. Sitting here as a CEO of a company, a huge company, how do you see the issue?
Yeah, so the great resignation, the great assessment, or the great reset, I mean, it's all a reality. But if you unpack that a bit, I see it particularly pronounced, not so much in questions as in, I need a new source of energy in my life and I'm rethinking. It is simply in industries that are in great demand, hospitality, healthcare, great stress, a lot of competition for best people. In our industry, anybody who knows anything in AI, digital identity, cyber, hot skills, those are the people that are in demand, and those are the people that are saying, I am feeling huge pressure every day in what I do. Can I do better? Let me look elsewhere. Even if I cannot do better, maybe I can be paid better. So there's a lot of competition going on, and that's been always the case in these industries, now pronounced because the pandemic put a lot of pressure on the system. I think that's the fundamental trend. When you peel the onion a bit more, there's an aspect about people are looking for some source of additional fulfillment. They want to be connected to their passions, make a difference. I'll give you an example. Last year we said, you're all very busy, the Zoom days are a blur. Would you like to do something else beyond? And hands went up across the company as, I want to help on financial inclusion. I want to help on helping small business, etc. So that does play a role, but it's fundamentally competition for hot skills that are under great demand. What do you have to do as an employer? Recognize that. It's a reality. And say, I have targeted compensation plans. I ensure well-being is a thing now because we are seeing a lot of people getting close to burnout because of all of that demand. So it is happening. I think it's going to be something that we will see for a period of time, as the recovery from COVID is not going to be near term, so it's going to be with us for a while. And as the private sector, we have to manage through that carefully. But I think there's been good learnings in the last 18 months.
What are you seeing in India? 1 billion people, millions joining the workforce every single year. A great reassessment?
Yeah, for India, livelihoods always were perhaps a little more important. People need work, people have to work. We still have to get wealthy as a nation. But there has been a fundamental shift, and you see it from very close quarters. People, are reassessing their options. My own view is if you were to press everybody to come back to the office, and by the way, I'm in Michael Bloomberg's camp, which says we must work as groups, we must work as teams, we need to get back to the office. But were you to press everybody to come to office, perhaps a very large section of them may not want to come back. Now, is this permanent? Can they afford to stay away from work stream or just do jobs which can allow them the flexibility? It's hard to predict. Possibly some sections of our business parts may be able to do that, but others may not be able to do that. I think the biggest problem is you allow some people to work from home and have the flexibility, and yet you ask others to come to the office every day, get up in the morning, get dressed up, get into a tube or bus or a car to do the 1 hour drive back and forth. It just becomes an unfair situation. Do you create a separate cadre for work from home who have lower increments, who have slower career options compared to those people who make the sacrifice to come to office? This is a conundrum each one of us as chief executives are going to face. And a large part, I would say, is also now people are not used to getting dressed up in the morning and getting ready to work. You have to
special occasion today.
Yeah, you have to shake up the lethargy. You've got to get them back. And I can tell you, once you are back in their routine, and I'm checking with people almost daily, in my office, 95% people are back. My operating units is still 50%. But once people have started to come back, they enjoy it. They like it. So my view is everything is assessed at a particular point in time. Eventually, when the world comes back to near normal, it'll never be normal, I think you'll start to see people coming back to work a lot more.
Michael, I'll get back to you. I know you want to add.
Just make a comment on this return to office work question. The concentration is really in white-collar workers who have the choice. The vast majority of people actually don't even have a choice. So it's a question that's discussed with a minority, essentially. And here, I think there's a risk of unintended side consequences. Everything you said, people that can make the sacrifice or not, but just think about the following. What happens once the mute button is pressed? What happens after the meeting? This is when there's impact of careers that are being shaped. And imagine a world where there's, let's say, a lot of women making the decision to work from home so they can support their families better, and men do the other side. You have a perpetuation of lack of gender diversity. Those are some of the intended side consequences we really have to think through. So I'm with you. Back together is better, but we got to do it the right way.
And Jane, when you take a look at China, the young people are pretty disillusioned. They're finding it difficult to find jobs. They're not getting married. Fertility rate at 1.3. What's the sense you're getting there?
Yes, China controlled the virus very well. So last year in February, we already went back to work full force. Now we are taking the opportunity to evaluate the new hybrid model. So we run A/B testing and pilot program, which enable our employees to have a choice whether work in the office or at home. So far, our testing have shown that the job satisfaction has increased significantly, and productivity is adhered to. So we are very pleased with the result. Different group in different region has shown different favors in terms of where they want to work. Generation Z and millennials prefer to work in the office because they have enjoyed the social environment in the office. Working mothers really have the flexibility to have a hybrid model. So we are still monitoring the process to make sure that our productivity and job satisfaction are enhanced by offering the alternatives to our employees.
Before we touch on technology, I want to just quickly touch on travel. Has it changed? Because we had, I think, Tata's Chandrasekaran saying that, he's not going to make that trip halfway around the world to do a 30-minute speech, unless, of course, it is for the New Economy Forum. Sunil, what's your take on that?
I think that perhaps has fundamentally changed. If I look back at my long years in being in business, I'm amazed how I was packing and unpacking all the time. Before you unpack, you have the stress to pack again because you need to move the second or third day to another country, another place. I can't imagine doing that ever again. So when I've been traveling, of course, travel has been relatively less. I go and anchor myself. If I'm going from Delhi to London, I'm there for a long period of time, rather than 2 days, which I used to do earlier, and then rush back or go to Africa or go to the US. That has changed. So I would say I would roll in more meetings around that place, do partial virtual and partial physical, and then get back. But who knows? I mean, I'm talking about right now. You know, we may just be back to the old usual self. But I think business travel will suffer from the levels it was before pandemic.
So we have the finger on the pulse. That's just what we do for a living at Mastercard. So we know what people do. Do they do what Sunil does, or do they do something different? And what is shown, as and when travel corridors opened, people did travel. It all started with leisure travel. Everybody wanted to.
But is that just pent-up demand?
Yeah, it is. You know, seeing the family and friends again. That is pent-up demand. But the first corridors opened. You're starting to see now at a point is you would have seen everybody. And people still travel. So leisure travel kicks in, as in you're not going home, you're going to the Caribbean. So we've seen that clearly over the summer. Now business travel, you're starting to see about a 6 months delay on business travel coming back. You know, in conversations that I have with airlines and people who are our customers and partners is all about leisure travel. But as business travel comes back, you start to see customer-facing travel as a reality. Internal travel, not so much. You wouldn't get 300 people in a room somewhere just to talk about your own company. So I think there's moderation. In the end, we'll see business level not coming back to the same level that it was.
Jane definitely has the pulse on the travel industry. Jane, what's your take? I mean, the sense out there, at least according to surveys, is that 50% of business travel will suffer.
Sorry, the translation somehow connects to my line. So, yeah, what we have seen is 2 trends. The first of all, the trends. Can you hear me okay? Because the translation line is...
We can, Jane, go ahead.
Okay, great. So if it is a one-on-one kind of conversation, it's very easy to be replaced by a Zoom call, so it becomes more efficient without travel. However, to attend a conference like this, I think you will be able to meet a lot of global leaders. The value is still there. So in China, where the business travel is robust, we have seen more than 30% year-over-year growth for our business travelers. So my feeling is when the pandemic is over, there will be a pent-up demand still addressing the business travel. Secondly, with the work at home program, a lot of people will be able to stay on the beach to have a business call. So right now in China, a very popular new word is workation, work and vacation integrated. So we're coming up with new products to address these kind of demand.
We learn new words every day. Sunil, this is right up your alley. Let's talk technology. Everything online. It was amazing that the internet didn't crash, right? The thing is, how do you build that technology to ensure that when the next pandemic happens, when there is a crisis, we're able to overcome even better? What needs to be looked into? What needs to be invested into?
Basically, I would say hard infrastructure. You need to ensure that the underlying connectivity network is powerful, has enough capacity, and at great speeds and latency to ensure that the traffic that is surging across the globe is well handled. Secondly, we must remember there's a large part of the globe which is still not on internet. And our last calculation suggests we need about $500 billion to cover the rest of the world who are not connected today, largely in the underdeveloped countries, but even places like the US, where FCC has just done an RDOF, Rural Development Opportunity Fund. There are parts of US which don't have internet. There are parts of Canada which don't have internet. So I think that is a simultaneous equation. Develop and create more robust connectivity in areas we already are, enhance your network capacities and quality, and go to the areas which are dark. Africa, very large portions of people are still not on internet. So all that requires a lot of work, and that needs 5-7 years. We need to start to work on it now.
And the pandemic has pushed, I guess, technology to a tipping point that has transformed business forever.
Right. It has. It has. It's starting with broadband access. 3.7 billion people don't have access at all. But if you assume for a moment there is access, still we've seen a lot of progress and a lot of push throughout the last 18 months on what else needs to happen. Imagine a brave new digital world, and there's all these new people that are starting to use digital solutions that haven't before because they didn't have a choice, they had to, like ordering groceries online, they started to do that. Their question of digital trust is essential because they're not familiar. They don't know how to stay safe. Same for a small business that might have been brick and mortar and just change their approach to have some online delivery proposition and they get hacked. So question of digital trust, investment in cybersecurity, cyber resilience, and cyber-oriented policies is absolutely critical. And I think the real game changer when it comes to where else should be a priority in investment for, to put technology to good use to give us that productivity boost that we all want is digital identity. In a world that is all digital, if you do not have a digital identity, you are a digital have-not. And that is a fundamental problem that has not been solved. It's not been solved consistently. Some countries made real progress. There's a lot of infrastructure in the India technology stack. Some countries in the Nordics have progressed that, but it is a gaping hole in this world, and I think that's where we should draw our attention to.
Jane, how are you looking at technology?
Absolutely. It's an enabler during this very challenging time. What happened in travel industry is that it has been impacted by the pandemic tremendously. However, we have been very innovative. For example, we made museums online. So although people cannot travel into these countries, the treasures in these museums are presented to the travelers. We made one hit. You can change, cancel, and delay your trip. That is tremendous because when the pandemic hit, it was during the Chinese New Year. Millions of families are waiting to go abroad. With the technology, we're able to making sure all the people who want to travel get to see whatever is available online. And when they want to make changes and modify their itinerary with one hit, they can do that. So technology definitely is an enabler in this challenging environment.
Before we continue with our conversation, I'd just like to get the results of the poll that we did just moments ago. The question, just a reminder, what will be the pandemic's most enduring impact on business? Is it remote work, reduced business travel, redundant supply chains, a green economy? If we can get the results now.
Wow.
Remote work.
Everybody else.
Then comes a green economy. Then it's a tie between reduced business travel and redundant supply chains. Your initial reaction, Sunil?
It's quite predictable. I mean, I'm not surprised to see this. Remote work is the norm at the moment, so everybody would sort of see that as a near normal. Mm-hmm. My own view is 1 year from now, this poll would have a reduced percentage on remote work. And the other parts of B and C are probably correct, and the greener will get even more momentum. I mean, that part I think seems very clear that the world has now completely pivoted. I think they've realized I'm going to be flying back to Delhi tonight. Schools have been shut yesterday. Colleges have been shut. It's covered in smog. I mean, it's one of the worst weeks of Delhi. We can't live like this. We will have more people falling sick, and we talk about 5 million people dying of pandemic. People don't talk about how many people are being choked around the world, and how many natural resources are being, taken away from the earth by the climate issues. So I would say remote working will go down in a year's time. It will remain there, but not as high as this. And our concentration on climate issues will strengthen.
On the issue of redundant supply chain, Michael, your thoughts on globalization? I mean, we've had bottlenecks lasting longer than most expected. It's not just chips, but other things as well. I'm just wondering, how do you see it playing out? Are we looking at greater regionalization? And what does it mean for companies?
I think we are looking at greater regionalization. I think it's very much true. If you look at what's happening in North America right now with ships waiting outside of Long Beach port, the conversations currently going on with Central America on what to do in the triangle and how to prevent refugees. You bring the two of them together, land-based supply chains are going to be more of a thing. I think there's some quirks to be addressed here. There's a garment industry in Central America, and the US is basically buying all of this from Asia. So those are all questions that are being looked at right now. How can this be rebalanced? We see it in our business. There's a huge interest in digitizing supply chain. So a digitized supply chain is a more flexible supply chain. You have more data, you have more transparency where your stuff that you've ordered is. So a lot of focus on this. I think the trend to balancing out a bit and having more flexibility, moving from just in time to just in case, I think is where the direction of travel is.
We have about 2.5 minutes left of this conversation. I just want a big picture question here. As we try to emerge from this pandemic, look at a new economy, what is a must? What must change as we come out of this pandemic? Perhaps Jane, you can start this conversation.
Sure. Travel presents good changes as well as new opportunities. We have seen new trends among our travelers. First of all, it's much preferred to travel with a very safety measures in place. Secondly, smaller group is much favored compared to the big group. Thirdly, short booking window. And fourthly, smaller radius for traveler right now. And people prefer to travel with wellness conscious into place. And also people prefer to travel with eco-friendly mindset to the places that is less traveled. So we are bringing lots of people to the remote area where the income is much lower, where we can do more goods in bringing the wage salary for the people, local people who never have an opportunity to make good living. So that has been what we have seen in the travel trends, which presents good opportunities for the innovation.
Sunil, what must change?
I'm going to be staying on this particular question on a larger issue. We hear a lot about common prosperity now in China. My own view is we need to start to debate globally, whether it's UN or other forums, common prosperity across the globe. You can't have the disparities that we are seeing today. The world needs to start to engage with each other more. The whole approach of being insular, looking after your own countries, your own communities need to stop. We are actually moving in a reverse direction right now, where wealthy nations are taking care of themselves. Large parts of the world are unvaccinated today. We really need a better engagement. We need to turn this clock back into more cooperation, a common prosperity for the world rather than a few select nations.
And speaking of which, the rich countries have yet to fulfill that $100 billion that were meant for the emerging economies to help them fight climate. Michael, your thoughts on what needs to change?
So I'm with Sunil. We have to address the digital divide as an important aspect of common prosperity. I want to add one new thing into this conversation, and that is a global digital economy will only work for everybody if we collaborate on data sharing and technical standards. There's been studies done, McKinsey, a recent one, that the GDP of a given country can increase by 1 to 5% if data is shared across border. And we all use our comparative advantages across the world of leveraging what a country is best at versus the next neighboring country and so forth. So global common standards, data sharing, I think is essential for this digital economy going forward.
Candid, great insights. Michael, Sunil, Jane, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for listening.